and welcome to another speed build. Today I'm sharing a shipping container home that I built in Port Promise, which is the more industrial part of Evergreen Harbor. And I've been really looking forward to building a shipping container home ever since we found out about eco lifestyle. I really like all of the different kinds of shipping container wallpapers and doors and windows, and I did try to make a shipping container home when I first got the pack, but that didn't really pan out so well. I just did this sort of thing where I made a bunch of rectangles and haphazardly stacked them on top of each other, which I think could be a cool build, but it just wasn't really turning out that well, so I had to scrap that. But this go at making a shipping container home worked out a lot better, so this is a home that looks a little bit more put together and stylish than what my initial take at, my initial try in making a shipping container was. This is just a build that I had a lot of fun making, and it was really nice to be able to use some of the items from this pack that I didn't get to use in my last build, and also use some of the items that I did use before in a bit of a different way. And I also had a lot of fun with the landscaping on this build, which I normally don't. I mean, I normally kind of enjoy landscaping, but usually it's like my least favorite part of the build. Like, I get the shell done, and then I'm like, great, I gotta figure out where to put all these plants, and it ends up being tedious, and it's usually just the part of the build I want to be done with just so I can move on to the furnishing. But with this one, I tried some new things, and I had a lot of fun with it. I also really like this yellow and blue color scheme that this has, because those shipping container wallpapers came in a lot of really fun colors, so you can make some really neat looking shipping container homes with them. And I'm glad we actually have proper shipping container walls now, because before, the closest you could get was using those walls that came with, I think it was Strangerville, which aren't exactly the same thing, but they kind of worked. But here I'm working on the floor plan, and this house has 3 bedrooms and 1.5 bathrooms. So there are 2 bedrooms and a bathroom upstairs, and on the first level there's another bedroom, a half bathroom, and a study. So those are those rooms on the right side of the house here. And I ended up furnishing the bedroom that was downstairs as a guest room because for whatever reason it made sense to me to not have that bedroom be the bedroom of one of the Sims who regularly live in the house. Like, it just didn't really seem like a good spot to have a kid's bedroom in, and it's also at the front of the house, so it's in kind of a weird spot where there's not really a ton of privacy because you got this big old window, so it makes this bedroom this fishbowl where anyone walking by or walking through Port Promise can just look in and see if the curtains aren't closed. So it just kind of made more sense as something that, it would just be for people staying, although I know you can't actually have guests in this game, but that does give you a little bit of flexibility. So if you wanted to have another adult live in this house with your Sims, then you could always just put them in that bedroom. It'll work for that. Or maybe if you wanted to have their in-laws live with them, it could also work really well for that. Or you could just go ahead and, redo the furnishing yourself to make it a kid's bedroom. So it is something that's left a bit more generic. And as I said, the nice thing is that it does give you a little bit more flexibility for what you want to do with this house. But here we're working on the landscaping, and I used these these stone tiles that I got out of the debug menu. And I got the idea to do this because I was looking at shipping container homes for inspiration, and there was a picture of one that I found that gave me the inspiration for this build, and that one had something kind of like this where it had these square stone tiles. I think more so it was a pathway than a patio type thing, but I thought that'd be something really cool to try to implement into this build. So yeah, that area right there ends up being a patio with a dining table, and maybe this is kind of a weird spot for a dining table. Like, maybe I should have stuck it around the back, but there's something about doing it this way that I liked, and I was trying to get out of my normal habits with landscaping when doing this build, because the last build that I did, I kind of did my typical landscaping where I take some bushes out of the debug catalog and a few of my favorite flowers and just kind of stick them in the yard, put some dirt under them, just kind of call it a day at that. So I really wanted to just do some other things here at this build. And I also took those planters there, which are really cool, and used them to sort of border this. And I got the idea to do that from one of the builds that came in this world. So it's the one that Knox lives in with his mother's, the one that's like the shipping container home with the crane building that Knox lives in. That one I think is so cool. I looked at that And I almost couldn't believe it was an EA build at first. Like, they really stepped up their game with that, because I know, we all like to rag on EA a little bit with their builds, but that one is really cool. It is really gorgeous, and I liked what they did with using those planters to sort of border the lot. So I wanted to do that a bit with this one. There's some other builds in this world that I really like too, like the one that I think Bess lives in. It's the one that was supposed to be a mill. I really like what they do with the roofs down the side of it, and I think it's just a very cool looking build. I also think the community spaces are pretty neat looking too. Here I'm just adding a little bit of grass to the side of the building, which is another idea that I got from that shipping container build that I was just talking about, because that actually looked kind of nice. Yeah, so the landscape on this build is mostly just planters and then a few patches of grass. This wasn't really a build that I thought adding a bunch of bushes around would really suit that much. The lighting in this part of the world is also really gorgeous, which I think just adds to the build. And since this lot came with this dirt and rocky type terrain paint originally, I wanted to add a little bit of grass to it just to freshen up a little bit, but I didn't want it to make it look like it was astroturfed or, covered in this perfectly green fake grass. So I just added some of the more dead looking grass type terrain paint to this lot, just add a little bit of green to it without going too overboard. And then under those square stone patios areas, I just added a bit more green grass just to kind of further separate that area. But that's about it for the front of the yard, or the front yard. So now we're moving on to the back. And this part of the yard took me a little bit longer to figure out. So here I'm just getting in another one of these square tile type patios that is yet again bordered by those planters, which I just want to say again are really gorgeous. I really like those, and also a lot of the other plant items that came with this pack. So here I'm just adding in these lounge chairs that we got with this pack, and yeah, I mean, maybe I should have put the table back here, but I think that's fine. I kind of like the look of having that table up front rather than those lounge chairs, so you can just kind of come back here in the backyard and relax and lounge in your own little oasis. And I also added that awning item there, which is really neat. I've been wanting to use. So I stuck this other shipping container building back here because I wanted to add in the fabricator and the fizzy juice maker and the candle maker and all of those other things that came with this pack. And I didn't want to have it all just piled out in the middle of the yard, so I thought it would work a little bit better to have this other building that's a bit more finished or a bit more unfinished. So on the inside of this one, I just left the shipping container walls exposed. So we just got all that stuff in there. So that's basically just this workspace. And rather than using the windows that came with this pack, I ended up using the ones that came with Get Famous, because I didn't want one of those floor to ceiling windows that we got this pack there, because again, I wanted that to look a little bit less finished. So I just didn't think those windows would really go with that. But yeah, those ones for Get Famous worked really well. Like, they just tie in so well with the shipping container type buildings. And I also wanted to use that one door that looks like it was one that was just straight off a shipping container. I mean, it's kind of on the wrong end, but it works, so it's fine. So up here on the roof over the second level, we've just got another sitting area with some lounge chairs. And in a bit, I also add some other activities. So I stuck the ladder to get up to that area in front of the sliding glass doors that are off of the parents' bedroom. And I was worried that Sims wouldn't actually be able to use the ladder since it is in front of a door, but I did playtest this build and that does work, which made me very happy, because if that didn't work, I don't know what I would do. Like, I would have to have a ladder going up off of the first level somewhere, and that just would not have looked as pretty. Here we've got some of those hydroponic planters, and I also added a bunch of vertical gardens throughout the yard, so there's a lot of opportunity for your sim to plant things, because, yeah, we got those. I also added some of the vertical gardens against this workshop building, and then there's some under that awning. There's also some on the roof above the second floor, so yeah, lots of places for your sims to plant things. We've also got windmills, of course, and solar panels, so I was just trying to fit in as many of those eco-friendly items as possible. I also added a dew collector as well, so that, yeah, that's up on the roof above the second floor right now. I didn't add in a generator or that one, there was that one water generator thing, because that was also an industrial footprint, so I just left that out because I was trying to make this build fairly eco-friendly. Although, if I remember correctly, those shipping container wallpapers have an industrial footprint, so they don't quite go with that, but hopefully the other stuff that I added goes, outweighs that a little bit. And it does seem like it's pretty easy to get things to be green, because when I was doing the play testing for this build, I used the green initiative to clean up the world a little bit so it looked nicer in the fly-through, and the game, it just went right from industrial to green within a few hours, which I guess makes sense since the green initiative is going to make that go a little bit faster, but I just wasn't expecting it to go to green quite that fast. And I've heard some other people saying that that's because some of the other lots in this part of the world have solar panels and stuff on them, and I think the eco footprint kind of takes into account what everyone has. So it seems like it can be a bit difficult to keep things industrial. So right now I'm working on this workshop area, just kind of figuring out where to place all of these different workbenches. So there's just a whole bunch of things in this area that your Sims can do. So I was imagining that the Sims living here are, like, one of them is maybe a civil designer. I think that was one of the careers that came with the game. The other one is maybe in the maker freelance career. So they spend a lot of time out here just trying to create different things for their careers. Yeah, because once again, I didn't really get too specific into thinking about these Sims, and I think I need to try to get back into making creative Sims, because I know with builds in the past where I made a family and then did the build, I always had so much fun with it, and I felt like I had so much creativity flowing with having these specific Sims in mind to make builds for, but unfortunately, I haven't really had a lot of inspiration for making Sims lately, and I'm hoping that inspiration comes back soon, just because over the past few months I've been feeling, I just think of, like, with everything going on with the pandemic and all of that, I've just been feeling very scatterbrained, and like I've had a harder time focusing and being creative, but it is starting to get a little bit better, so hopefully soon I start to get some of that inspiration back. But I did swap out a few of those insect hotels for some bee boxes. Beekeeping boxes. I don't know why I put bee boxes. That just sounds kind of funny. Anyway, I added a couple of those in because those are useful for creating candles. And I've also heard that those insect houses are very annoying to try to maintain. Like, apparently you need to spend a ton of time nurturing them to keep them happy. Like, you have to spend hours petting your worms, which makes sense. Like, I didn't realize, I mean, it makes sense to feed them and all of that and maybe pet them, but I didn't realize that worms were so needy and needed so much affection. So yeah, I just swapped out 2 of those for the beekeeping boxes, which are a little lower maintenance, so your Sims don't have to spend their entire day appeasing insects. But that is it for the exterior of the house, so now we're on to the interior. So I'm just figuring out which swatch of this wood paneling I want to use, because this wallpaper, I said it before, but this wallpaper is gorgeous, so I just used it all over this house. So right here I'm just getting a light in above the stairwell, since we kind of got this 3-floor high area above the stairwell, which I think looks really nice. I always like having those sort of grand feeling open staircases, but here I'm working on the kitchen, which is a little small. Some of the living areas in this house aren't really very big, but then again, it's not really that big of a house. And also due to the whole making it look like shipping containers that are joined together thing, it didn't really lead to the easiest to work with floor plan, but I think it's fine. You know, we got the necessities for what you need in a kitchen in here. I think everything fits in pretty well. There's also a few free counter spaces for your Sims to prepare food on, so everything should function fine in this kitchen. I put the standalone sink here in the kitchen instead of one that just goes in the counter, because I thought that added a nice rustic touch to this kitchen here. Plus it fit in a little bit better because I didn't want to have any full width counters right up against the window there, because it does bug me when I put counters in front of windows. So on the other side I did use the end counter, so it at least doesn't look like the counter is touching the window. And you know, the sink worked, that sink here worked a little bit better for that. But here we're just adding some clutter to the top of this counter. So we just got some spices and such on top of the bread box here. I purposefully didn't add a dishwasher to this kitchen just because I don't think dishwashers are as eco-friendly as just hand washing your dishes, so I just thought it would have been better with this house to not include that. But we're moving on to the other side of the kitchen where we of course have a stove, we've got a coffee maker, we've got a microwave, and just finishing things off with adding some clutter, and yeah, that's pretty much it for the kitchen. As far as seating goes, we've got a couple of bar stools here and then a 4-seater table over near the windows, so there should be plenty of space for your Sims and anyone they may have over. I was originally going to just have a dining table kind of centered in this dining area right here, but I wanted a little bit of extra space for the kitchen, so I just decided to add those island counters onto it, just so your Sims would actually have space to prepare food at, and just stuck the dining table over here against the window so there wasn't any potential routing issues with Sims trying to get through here, and I think that looks really nice. So they could just sit here and take in the beautiful view of industrial waste and junk. At least with how the world is now. I mean, it does get a little bit better when you clean it up, fortunately, but for now, the view's not that great. They've got those pipes. I think those are pipes. I'm not 100% sure what those things are that are sitting out there are supposed to be. But that's about it for the dining room. So here we're moving on to the living room, which is one of my favorite parts of this house. So I use this couch that I've been wanting to use ever since I saw that it was in this pack. I just think this looks really cool. It looks like they took a burlap sack and then turned it into a pillowcase. I think that looks really neat. That's kind of cool. Like, I just like that look of upcycling stuff. I mean, it obviously goes very well with this pack, and it's a piece of furniture that I think is unique. You know, we haven't really got anything quite like that. Something that works very well for more off-the-grid type builds. I also like this coffee table and how it has some swatches that look like worn paint, and this one here that looks like, it looks kind of like they took an old wooden sign and just cut it and then used it as a coffee table. I didn't end up using that one though. I just used this one from Jungle Adventure because I used the matching end table, so I thought that looked pretty nice to use in there. And also I worried that the other one looked a little bit too busy, and I do also like to not use everything from the same set. I usually like to kind of mix and match things a little bit so it has this look of the family getting furniture at different times and not like they went out and bought a whole living room set at the same time. This is just a really nice and cozy living room though, and I also got to use that fireplace there, which is really neat. Here I'm just adding that vent to make it look like it's where it vents. Because I'm thinking this is supposed to be a gas fireplace, or maybe not. Maybe it could be a gas fireplace. Let's go with that. It's a gas fireplace and that's the ventilation for it. Because with gas fireplaces, I could be wrong, but I don't think you usually need a chimney. You just kind of need somewhere for it to maybe exhaust out to. I don't know, I'm not really super knowledgeable on gas fireplaces. But here I'm just going through making some last minute color changes to the curtains and moving on to this area out here. And this area it's kind of this awkward hallway area, and I do feel like it is kind of a waste of space, but I wasn't really sure what else to do with it. Like, I couldn't really make this area the living room because you've got that big old sliding door going out to the back. You've also got the staircase, so I didn't want to stick a bunch of stuff to block it. So it's just kind of this area to get to the different parts of the house, which I think does work fairly well. We've got some other stuff out here. We've got a pet toy bin. I did add stuff in. Like, I was kind of imagining that this family had a small dog. So there isn't a litter box in this house, but if you wanted to add one, I think you could probably shuffle things around in the half bathroom that's downstairs and fit it in, because that is a 2x3 bathroom. So yeah, there should be plenty of space in there to work with if you want to add that. If not, then you can maybe just stick it out in the workshop building, because they're cats in The Sims. They'll go wherever you put the litter box. It doesn't really matter too much. There was also a cozy little reading spot under the staircase, so I think that'd be a nice spot to just read and look out into the backyard. But here we're onto the half bathroom. There's nothing really that spectacular about this. I used this, it's some kind of corrugated metal wallpaper, I guess, like corrugated metal tiles, or maybe it's concrete. But that's one that I didn't use in my last build. I actually didn't notice it somehow, so I really wanted to try to find a use for this wallpaper in this house. And I realized that this space in here between the door's frame and the wall like really nicely fits that one cabinet. Yeah, those walls are kind of, those doors, I mean, they're interesting. I like the industrial look that they have, but that frame they have around them does make them kind of hard to use in some spots because you can't always, I don't know, it makes it a bit harder to fit stuff next to the door than it is with usual doors. But anyway, we're on to the guest bedroom now, and I really like the blue and orange color scheme that it has. I was trying to use some other colors with the other rooms than what I did in the living room, because in the living area, I kept with the nice mint color scheme that I used in my last build, so I wanted to make sure that I tried some other colors in the other rooms just so I could put more of the swatches for the items that came with this pack to use. This room is pretty nice and cozy. Unfortunately, I had to stick the bed right next to the window because this room is only 3 tiles wide, so if I stuck it anywhere else, then Sims wouldn't have been able to get around it. But I just like to imagine that, you know, if someone is staying here and they want some privacy, they could just pull the curtains closed and it's fine. And I mean, fortunately, Sims don't really care. They don't really care if they're in a fishbowl and people can look in and see them. They only care if someone happens to walk in. I know them in the bathroom, but other than that, it's fine. But we're just finishing this room up with a rug, and then it's on to the study, which I really like. This is one of my favorite rooms in this house. It yet again just has this cozy feel to it. I mean, this whole house has this kind of cozy and rustic feel to it. So we just added a lot of candles in here. I used this one that came with tiny living stuff, and then in a little bit, I also added some candles onto the windowsill because that windowsill is just a really good spot to put a bunch of stuff on. I thought about doing that in the living room, but I chose not to because I felt like there was already a good bit going on in the living room, and I didn't really want to add much more to it to make it kind of overwhelming to look at. But here's where I'm doing that. So I mostly just added candles and a snow globe. I just thought that was something kind of cute to have there as a decoration. And as I'm sure you know, I put a lot of candles throughout this house. I just really love using them as decorations. It's maybe a bit of a fire hazard, but I think it's fine. I've left them lit for hours when playtesting both this build and the last one that I did, and I didn't have any problems with it lighting anything on fire, so as far as I know, the candles don't start fires, but I could be wrong. So yeah, if any of you have had those candles start fires, then let me know. Hopefully they don't, because I'd be rather unfortunate if you couldn't really use them as decoration however you wanted because of that. But we've also got that really neat wall shelf there that I just added some plants and candles and vases and decorations to. I just think that shelf is really gorgeous. And that award there, I think is from the civil designer career. So I thought that went well with my idea of one of the Sims that live in this house being in the civil designer career. The last things I'm adding to this room are this bookshelf and a rug, and then that is it. So we will be on to the upper level. Although first I did change the staircase because, yeah, that one I put in when I was going to go with a darker color scheme, but with a lighter color scheme that I ended up going with, that one just wasn't really going that well. But this one I think looks really nice when combined with the industrial, like the industrial railing in a white color. So I just added a few things up here. I didn't really clutter this area up too much. I was gonna add a chair in, but with how I arranged the doors, like how they're kind of centered on 2 tiles, that didn't fit in. And that is the nice thing, like thanks to the most recent patch giving us alt placement for doors and windows, you can now center 1 tile doors on 2 tiles, which is great. It just gives you a lot more possibilities for centering things and making things look a little bit nicer. So you will see that I did place things off grid, like windows and doors off grid in this build. It is just, I don't know, it's just so helpful for builds and giving you more control over where you can place things. So I'm really looking forward to experimenting more with that in the future. So for this bedroom here, I was originally going to make it a kid's bedroom, but once I got a bit into furnishing it, I decided to just make it for a teen. Because the last build I did, I had a bedroom for a child and a toddler in it, so I figured we might as well just go with a teen for this one. So I was imagining it for a teen who is a bit more into art, so you'll see in a bit that I added easel in, and I also ended up adding in that one item that came with this pack that looks like the paintings that are on the floor. So I was thinking of those as paintings that they've made and then finished and just kind of left on the floor to figure out what to do with. And I also added this one TV that I think they find from dumpster diving, like just this really neat retro looking TV here into this room. Like they wanted their own TV, but their parents were refusing to buy them a TV, and they're like, if you want a TV, you gotta get one yourself. And they're like, all right, fine. And they just went dumpster diving around the neighborhood and just found this TV, maybe fixed it up a little bit, and then just stuck it in their room so they could have something. I mean, it's probably black and white, but it's fine. You know, it's better than nothing. So over here, we've got a desk. I didn't end up putting a computer in here, but I did add a journal to this room, which is an item that I keep forgetting about, but it is really nice to have in bedrooms for childs and teens to write in. And I also like the interactions where their siblings can read them. That's always fun. So here I'm just trying to figure out what to do with the rest of the room. After I finished that part of the room, I got a little stuck on what to do. So here I'm just adding in this fabricated bookshelf and putting some various types of decorations on it. So I was just adding some Void Critter stuff, some My Sim stuff, just to look like it's figurines they collect from, you know, TV shows and stuff like that that they're a fan of. Trying to figure out what kind of chair I want to put in over here, because I was going to stick that one from Eco Lifestyle, but I didn't want everything in this room to feel perfectly matched, so adding this one from Tiny Living at least made it feel a slight bit less corny. But this teen here, of course, likes red a lot since there's red all over this room. So that's a spot where I stuck the art easel in, which is this very tight spot. I was actually worried that they wouldn't be able to use that easel, but I play tested and it is fine, so no worries there. Here I'm just working on the hall bathroom, not that much to this one. And something I do hope for is that they eventually add in more shower tub combos, because I would like one that feels very sleek and modern, because that would have really been great for here. This one just always gives me 90s bathrooms feel with the tile that's in it. And I did that same thing I did in the downstairs bathroom, where I just crammed that cabinet in between the frame of that door and the wall. But now we're on to the last room of the house, which is the parents' bedroom. So we've got this mint green and yellow color scheme. I really liked how the yellow on the curtains tied in with the yellow on that pillow, I think that is, or yarn ball. I guess that's what this was. It's decorative. I don't know what exactly that thing is supposed to be. For whatever reason, it reminds me of something that you would get in a potpourri bowl. It's clearly not that, though. Like, I don't think they're just sticking a giant potpourri piece on their bed to make it smell nice. I don't know why I'm going on about this, but I found that this lamp here went really well with this room. Like, you've got the mint green on it to tie in with the mint green on the bed, and then you got the gold on it to kind of tie in with the curtains. So I was very pleased with how well that came together. So here I'm using this dresser, which I believe is a fabricated one. This is another item that I was really looking forward to using in this build. And also the bed too, because I didn't use that bed in the last build that I did. We've also got a photography manual and a camera on the nightstand, so I also see one of these Sims as being into photography too. So we're just finishing things up with the last few decorations here in this room. So we have yet another gorgeous shelf that came with this pack here on this wall. So we're just adding another candle. There are so many candles in this house. If this was real life, that would probably be a little bit of a fire hazard, but yeah, but hopefully it's fine. It should be fine. So we just got a rug, and here's where I decided to stick that in the other room, because I was like, you know, that would be perfect for that other room. And the last thing that we have to do before finishing this build is furnishing. Oh yeah, I swapped out those real hampers for these fake hampers because I didn't really have a good spot to fit in a washer and dryer or clothes drying line or anything like that. So I decided to leave laundry out, but you can always figure out how to fit that in if you want that. But anyway, we're almost at the end of the building part of the video. So there will be a link to download this in the description. There will be other stuff in there on how to find in-game. And that's going to be it for me. So hope you enjoy the rest of the video.